Was the worst year for a lot of us for our mental as well as physical health. So joining us this morning is best-selling author, coach Lisa Goldenthal.
Hello and welcome. I'm Lisa G, your host. You're at the top of your game, yet the game is changing faster than ever. Strategies that got you here aren't the ones that'll keep you here. The pressure is relentless, and the fear of obsolescence looms large. That's why I'm here. Welcome to the new podcast series, Disruptive: How to Be Gritty and Unlock Performance in Business, Mindset, Wellness, and Success to help you master disruption.
Thanks for coming, and I'll see you soon.
When it comes to getting healthy, his goal is to make it easy to do the right thing. As an internationally recognized speaker, best-selling author, focusing on food sensitivities, environmental toxins, and the development of autoimmune disease, he'll help you figure out what it takes to get you well. Considered a Sherlock Holmes for chronic disease, welcome, Dr. Tom O'Brien.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Well, I'm so happy to get a chance to sit down and talk to you again. And I want to talk to you today. The topic is toxins. Is it true that we're exposed to more than 700,000 toxins daily?
I don't know that number, but I'm not surprised by it. It's in the hundreds of thousands. I just don't know what the current number is.
Right. And it contributes to all kinds of disease. Isn't that correct? Like depression, fatigue, brain fog, inability to focus, things like that.
The paradigm that we all have to come from is the basic understanding: what is the mechanism behind the 8 of the top 10 causes of death in the US today?
Right.
It's the same mechanism. And the mechanism is inflammation.
Correct.
And the only top 10 causes of death that are not because of inflammation are accidents, car accidents, things like that,
Right.
and suicide.
Wow.
Everything else,
yes.
everything else, cancer, cardiovascular diseases, autoimmune diseases, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, they're all inflammatory diseases.
Wow.
So if we understand that basic principle, then the primary goal is stop throwing gasoline on the fire.
Agreed.
The question is it a kidney cell or a brain cell that's being affected? And that's determined by your genetics and what's called your antecedents, how you've lived your life so far. For example, you eat tuna fish a couple times a week, every week for years, you got mercury poisoning.
Right.
Because almost all tuna fish has mercury, toxic levels of mercury now, almost all of it. And that's your antecedents, how you lived your life. But
Right.
It's your genetics that determine where's the weak link in your chain. You pull at a chain,
Right.
It always breaks at the weakest link, right? And the pull on the chain, so if your weak link is for Alzheimer's, there's dementia in the family and you carry that gene, it doesn't mean you're getting Alzheimer's.
Right.
But what it does mean is that if you pull on the chain too hard, that's where you're likely to go down, is in that system.
Right.
So don't pull on the chain so hard.
And is that nutritionally that we're pulling on the chain with like carbs and sugar, or what else?
Well, that's a really good question. But so the pull on the chain is inflammation.
Correct.
That's the first critically important point that everyone has to understand. If you want to get healthier, you want to live a less inflammatory lifestyle. That's the key. And to your question, the most common source of gas, because the question is it a kidney cell or a brain cell? Is it gasoline or kerosene? But it's always inflammation, always.
Right.
Unless it's suicide. And then arguably suicide is caused in most times by depression, being in a depressive state, and that's an inflammatory state. Correct. Science is really clear about that. So the most common source of gasoline on the fire is what's on the end of your fork.
Correct.
That's most common. There are others. For example, if you live in a moldy house, I don't care how much nutrition you're taking. There are 5 types of Alzheimer's, and the most dominant type of Alzheimer's is called inhalation Alzheimer's. It's what we're breathing, because the nerves of smell, called the olfactory nerves, are the only nerves in the body that go directly to the memory center of the brain with no screening, no filters. They're the only nerves in the body that get into the brain with no filter. Why? Because it has to be really fast. Why? Because we have the same body as our ancestors thousands of years ago. Our gallbladders are the same. Our kidneys are the same. The liver's the same. The immune system's the same. And how did our ancestors protect themselves? The first thing was to be able to detect danger. Excuse me. So to detect danger, if they smell saber-toothed tiger, they better turn around really quick and go the other way.
So our senses of olfactory are really strong.
They are the strongest message going directly to the memory center of the brain.
Wow.
So when you start losing your sense of smell, that is an indicator that the memory center of your brain is on fire. It's inflamed, killing off brain cells, killing off brain cells, killing off brain cells. And that can go on for years, and you never know, because I'm just not smelling the way I used to. It's no big deal. It is a big deal. You just don't know that it's a big deal because it's suggestive there's fire in the brain. And you have to check, is my brain on fire? Is my brain inflamed? So the basic rule when I'm teaching physicians all over the world, I was in Lisbon 2 weeks ago. I have to. No matter who the audience is, they've got to see what brings me joy and happiness in my life. So,
oh my gosh, what a
this is my son.
Hi, what a handsome boy.
His name is Gio, and he's nine months old, and he loves the camera already.
Oh, congratulations. A ham just like me. Hi, Gio.
Yes. Thanks.
So what is the answer then, if obviously it's what's on the end of our fork, and it's what you're saying is toxin, and how can we start to detoxify?
Well, the rule, I understand the question. The rule is test, don't guess.
Oh, okay.
You have to test to see, am I sensitive to food? It doesn't matter how you feel when you eat something. The lucky ones are the ones who feel sick after they eat something. I mean, that's obvious.
Right.
But for every one person that has gut symptoms with a sensitivity to wheat, as an example, there are 8 people that have no gut symptoms. They've got brain symptoms or lung symptoms or skin symptoms. You know, their psoriasis breaks out the next day.
Right.
But they never associate it with what they ate yesterday.
It's gluten a lot of times, right? That is the...
Yeah, unfortunately, gluten is the only food identified in the world that humans eat that activates inflammation in your gut and what's called the leaky gut in every human every time they eat it. This occurs in every individual. And this is published in the Journal of the American Medical Association by Dr. Maureen Leonard out of Harvard. She did a literature review of 64, I think it was, 64 studies on this topic. And she said, it's very clear. This process, when you eat wheat, causes intestinal permeability, transient, immediate intestinal permeability within 5 minutes. And this process occurs in all individuals who eat wheat. This comes from Harvard.
Is it even in France and places like that, or is it just in places where we have a lot of toxins in our soil?
Say that once again.
Is it the same in other countries where they have maybe less toxins in the soil, less DDT and things like that?
Yeah, it's wheat. It's actually the structure of the wheat.
Okay, got it.
And this is worth understanding as to why. We've been eating wheat for 10,000 years. Why? What's the problem? It turns out we have the same immune system as our ancestors. And our ancient ancestors, a very important thing for them was to find food.
Right.
And the idea of 3 meals a day is a fallacy to the human body. That's not how we're supposed to live, but that's what we've grown up believing. But when our ancestors would find something to eat, the first thing they do is sniff it. The second thing they do is nibble, just get a little taste. And if it tastes okay, then they'll eat it.
Correct.
If there's bad bugs in that food, but they couldn't identify it by sniffing it or nibbling on it, those bad bugs, if they come out of the stomach into the first part of the small intestine, there are sentries standing guard there. And these sentries, it's toll-like receptor 4. Sorry for the geekiness, but they're just sentries standing guard. And they're just looking around at everything that's coming out of the stomach into their area of the small intestine. And if they see a bug, they immediately fire their chemical bullet to destroy the bug.
Correct.
Meaning they cause inflammation and they cause transient intestinal permeability or leaky gut. The reason it causes leaky gut is because when the cells open up a little bit, two cells that abut together, when they gap open a little bit, water comes from the inside out into the lumen of the intestine to wash away whatever this bad bug is. You know,
Wow.
it's kind of like if you have mud dried up on your driveway and you turn on the hose and you try to wash the mud off and it doesn't go, you have to put your thumb over the opening of the hose to get a stronger flow, right?
Right.
That's leaky gut. That's the purpose of leaky gut.
Like people talk about leaky gut, but no one's ever explained it that well, where like things are just leaking through.
Yeah. And it's a life-saving mechanism that we have that gets activated when a pathogenic bacteria comes out of the stomach into the first part of the small intestine. Now, here's the problem, is that the protein structure of that bacteria that the toll-like receptor 4 has identified and stimulates leaky gut, also stimulates inflammation in the gut to kill that bacteria.
Right.
The protein structure that toll-like receptor 4 recognizes, oh, that's a bad bacteria. That protein structure is very, very similar to the protein structure of wheat. And so our bodies misinterpret wheat as a harmful component of a bug.
Oh my gosh, this is the best explanation I've ever heard of why gluten is bad, why we're all intolerant. So how do we get tested to find out what toxins are in our body rather than just randomly quitting eating gluten, which we obviously all should do, but there's damage done? What is the answer for us to be unstoppable in our health?
Right. Well, the first thing is I never say everyone needs to give up wheat. I never say that. What I do say is if you have a health problem that you're not getting the results you want, you just need to be tested accurately to see if your immune system is fighting wheat. That's when you've crossed the line of tolerance, when your immune system says no more, and now you're making antibodies to it. And the test that is the most comprehensive test in the world, I lecture all over the world, and so I'm always looking at the laboratories in different countries and what they're offering. The most comprehensive test is called the wheat zoomer because you zoom in on the problem.
Right.
And that test is very, very accurate. All the other tests are outdated. They're 20, 25, 30 years old, and they're helpful, but they're not comprehensive. So first, to see if you need to try this thing and give up wheat completely, you do the wheat zoomer. Now, in terms of toxic chemicals, there are laboratories that offer tests to look to see, is your immune system fighting benzene? Is your immune system fighting bisphenol A, the plasticizers in water bottles and things like that? Right. So you just have to test to see, because your immune system is the armed forces in your body, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard.
Wow. Yes.
It's there to protect you. So what you want to see is, what's it trying to protect you from? Because when your immune system gets activated to protect you, that's inflammation. That's where the inflammation comes from, is your immune system trying to protect you from something. It's not an immune system that's gone haywire that has to be shut down.
Right.
And the old school of thought was, well, let's suppress the immune system here. let's take these very powerful drugs for people with autoimmune diseases to suppress
Right.
the immune system. We now know that helps them feel better for a short period of time, but it never stops the progression of the disease. It can't. It can't, because your immune system's always going to try to protect you from what it considers a threat. So
Well,
if
do you
you're
have
eating
those
wheat,
tests? Where can we find these tests for the
oh,
Zoom?
they're listed. They're listed on my website. Our website is thedr.com.
Right.
And there are a number of tests out there like this that look at many different chemicals. Very common in parts of the US now is that you have to look for mold and fungus, because that's just a nasty, of the 5 types of Alzheimer's, inhalation Alzheimer's accounts for 60 to 65% of all Alzheimer's. And it's what you're breathing that goes through the olfactory nerves right back to the memory center of your brain, causing your immune system fights the fungus, it fights the mold. So if you're breathing mold air, oh, it's not too bad, I feel okay. If we're trying to rationalize it, your brain doesn't care, your immune system doesn't care that you're trying to rationalize it. And it's going to create more inflammation and more inflammation, killing off brain cells, killing off brain cells, killing off brain cells. And eventually, where did I park my car? Which parking lot am I in this mall?
Well, can you reverse it once some of that damage is done?
Oh, our friend Dr. Dale Bredesen published the book, The End of Alzheimer's, about 4 or 5 years ago. And it's very clear that you can. And it's also very clear that it's extremely complicated to do it, because you have to identify all the inflammatory triggers and quiet them down. You have to identify, is gluten a problem? What about dairy? What about soy? What about the air you're breathing? Do you have accumulation of heavy metals in your body? Do you have toxic chemicals in your body? You have to look to see, what is the immune system trying to protect you from?
Right.
And when you identify what is trying to protect you from, then, now we're coming into the topic of today, then you get that stuff out of your body. That's what detoxing is. And when you start to dive into this, you aren't going to get this in a 20-minute interview, right? But if I can get you interested to want to learn more, then it can change your life. Because once you start learning about how toxic our world is today, then you do an OMG. It's like, oh my God, I had no idea. I just had no idea about this, about for you, for your children, for your grandchildren. And you realize that what we're living in today has never been part of human history. The amount of chemicals we're exposed to, the human body cannot efficiently deal with them. We don't have the tools to deal with them. We don't. And this stuff accumulates. I'll give you one example, if I may.
Okay.
One study. They took 346 pregnant women in Chicago, 8th month of pregnancy, and they did urine tests on them, looking for 5 different phthalates. Phthalates are plasticizers, chemicals used to mold plastic.
Mm-hmm.
And there are many, but they looked for 5, just 5. They measured them, and they categorized the results in quartiles, in fourths. The lowest, 4th, the next, the 3rd, and the highest. They then followed the children of these pregnancies for 7 years.
Wow.
When the children turned 7 years old, they did Wechsler IQ tests on the official IQ test. And there's not much in medicine that's all or every, but this was every. Every child whose mother was in the highest quartile of phthalates in urine in the 8th month of pregnancy, compared to the children whose mothers were in the lowest quartile of phthalates in urine in pregnancy, every child in the highest quartile, their IQ was 7 points lower. Now, that doesn't mean anything to anyone. It was 6.7 to 7.4 points lower.
Right.
It doesn't mean anything to anyone until you realize a 1-point difference in IQ is noticeable. A 7-point difference is a difference between a child working really hard, getting straight A's, and a child working really hard, getting straight C's. This child doesn't have a chance in hell of ever doing well in school, ever.
Right.
Now, just go to Google and type in phthalates, 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 and neurogenesis, nerve growth. Here come the studies, how phthalates inhibit nerve growth. So this study of 346 pregnant women and their children show when mom had accumulated all these phthalates in her body over 25 years, 30 years, now she's pregnant, that those phthalates get mobilized in the bloodstream, they go to baby, and it inhibits baby's brain development.
That's sad.
That's just one example of hundreds, I'm not exaggerating, hundreds of examples now of studies showing how these chemicals that we're exposed to every day, how much damage they're doing in the long term. Now, because
I want to do this test, I'm fascinated by this because I've known such great change of my own health from eliminating gluten.
yeah, because this is a podcast for CEOs, I'm going to give you a little more of the science behind this. In the journal Pediatrics, arguably the most prestigious health journal for children in the English language, they published a policy statement. Now, a policy statement is a message from the board, the American Academy of Pediatrics, and they want every pediatrician in the world to know this. They don't publish policy statements very often. And they said the Toxic Substance Control Act of 1976 failed miserably to protect our children and adults, and it is still the regulatory guidelines for introducing chemicals into our environment today. It's never been changed because the chemical industry lobbies, spends millions of dollars to make sure it never changes. Why? Because they got this legislation passed that has no teeth whatsoever. It says that you have to demonstrate that the amount of chemical that you're exposed to is toxic to humans. And it's not that when you store your leftover chicken in a plastic storage container in your refrigerator, and the next day the chicken's got phthalates in it.
Oh gosh.
But there's no evidence that that amount of phthalates is toxic to humans. It's not. Or when you apply nail polish like that beautiful red that you've got on your nails right now, the phthalates from that nail polish are in your bloodstream in 4 to 5 minutes. Now, there's no evidence that the amount of phthalates that leach into the bloodstream from nail polish is toxic to humans. There is no evidence of that.
But you believe it to be so?
There's no evidence. But this stuff is accumulative in the body. So give me 20 years of a 5-year-old girl painting her 10 little fingers and 10 little toes and getting minute exposures multiple times a week, every week. Now you've got accumulative toxins in your body. Yeah. Now here comes the immune system saying that's enough, no more. Now your immune system starts making antibodies to fight those toxins. Now here comes the inflammation. Then depending on where your genetic weak link is, now here comes eventually the disease.
Right.
That it's an accumulative amount of toxins we're exposed to in this world today. This is not an easy thing to get, and there's no pill that turns it around. Well, just tell me what to take and I'll okay, doc, I'll take it. Just tell me. There is nothing to take.
Charcoal every day and hope for the best.
Well, you can hope. And then when you get a diagnosis, you'll realize, oh, it didn't really work.
I'm just joking.
That we all have to learn that detoxing is something we have to do every day a little bit.
Wow.
And the first thing in detoxing, most important, I think, is that you have to be able to mobilize this stuff and get it out. Well, what does that mean? It means you have to drink enough water. The cleanest water that you've got access to.
Listening to this and drinking water.
Good. And it's 1/3 to a 1/2 ounce of water per pound body weight.
Correct.
So if you weigh 120 pounds, that is 40 to 60 ounces of water a day. That's 5 to 8-ounce glasses a day. Oh my God, I'll be peeing all day. Well, that's the idea.
I absolutely do it.
That's the idea, is that you want to mobilize and get this stuff out. The vast majority of us are dehydrated. We just don't get enough water.
What else can we do? Any other tips on detoxing every day?
Well, there's a number of things. There's a whole world of things to learn, and you can't get it in 20 minutes. You just can't. If I can get you interested and you want to learn more, great. This will be a great, impactful interview for you.
Yeah.
But the next thing that we talk about with people is eat the rainbow diet, meaning the colors of the rainbow. The more brilliant the colors, and not from food dye, like cheap maraschino cherries. Yeah, fruits and vegetables, blue berries, purple cabbage, red tomatoes, green broccoli. The more of these colorful fruits and vegetables you eat, the colors are what are called polyphenols, and they're the stress hormones of the plant to help the plant survive. And those stress hormones that the plant produces to protect itself will protect us. And many have heard about resveratrol, which is the polyphenols in red wine, and how good it is. Because it protects the grape. And you know, the highest concentration of resveratrol is in Pinot Noir grapes. Why? Because they have the thinnest skin. So when they're out there in the fields and the wind blows and the grapes are bouncing a little bit, that's stress on the plant and on the fruit. The plant makes more resveratrol. So because the thin skin, it makes more. And so that's why there's more resveratrol in Pinot Noir than in any other red. So it's concepts like that.
So we want to eat vegetables that have been through a lot of stress in their lives, and fruits.
Right. That's why hydroponic, they look really pretty, but they don't have the polyphenols because they're in greenhouses and there's no stress there. There's no animals coming by and peeing on them, or there's no wind bouncing them around. So when my friends grow hydroponic, or grow in greenhouses, I tell them, get a big fan in there and blow the plants around a little bit, get them like moving a little bit, shake them up, stress them, because they'll make more polyphenols when you stress them.
So we need to eat the rainbow and drink the water. And any other tips you want to leave our audience with on how they can be unstoppable in detoxing themselves on a regular basis?
For now, in this short time period, aerobic exercise. Aerobic exercise means that you're using your, you use a pulse monitor. You monitor your pulse. Yeah. And this is the formula, 180 minus your age plus or minus 5. And that's the range that you want to be exercising in for 20 to 30 minutes, 5 days a week. And when people get a pulse monitor, it's a strap you wear across your chest, or now watches will have the pulse on them. Yeah. And you set the alarm for your range, whatever your range should be. What happens, they turn it on, they start exercising, and it's going beep, beep, beep. Oh, my pulse is too slow. I better pick it up a little bit. Then you get in your aerobic range, it's silent. Then if you go too fast, it goes beep, 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 beep. And you say, oh my gosh, wow, my heart really jumped up. I better slow down. And people are surprised at how little it takes to exercise too hard, for your pulse to jump too high. And you say, no, that can't be right. I'm barely running at all. No, body language never lies. So your body is telling you, this is too hard, man. This is too hard. Slow it down. And people don't like that. They don't like that they have to slow down, because they think the more they sweat, the harder they work, the better for them, right? But if you want to have your body more relaxed, more functional, there's a bunch of geeky stuff I could tell you about the parasympathetic nervous system and all that, and how it all works. But the key here is you stay in your pulse range. The only variance on that formula is if you've been diagnosed with a disease, high blood pressure, diabetes, and autoimmune disease. Then it's 175 instead of 180. So you take 5 off. 175 minus your age, plus or minus 5. But aside from that, that is the formula. And your pulse monitor is your coach. And here's the rule: you never argue with your coach.
I agree with that. That's wonderful. Well, those are fantastic tips in such a short period of time. Why don't you tell us about your gift you have for our audience and where people can find you?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, our website is thedoctor.com, thedr.com. Don't spell the word doctor out, thedr.com. And my team put together some handouts for you that talk about how do you detox your kitchen. For example, if you don't have solid wood cabinets, if they're pressboard cabinets, they're outgassing formaldehyde into the air 24/7.
That's
Well, I don't smell it. Well, there's no evidence that the amount of formaldehyde that you're inhaling by the cabinets outgassing is harmful to humans. That's how they get away with this garbage, is because of the Toxic Substance Control Act, or flame retardant chemicals in your bed sheets and in your comforters. There's the list goes on and on of what we're exposed to. So we give you a few sheets, one for your kitchen, one for your bedroom, one for the bathroom, so that there's simple things you can do that'll reduce the amount of toxins you're exposed to in your home.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Tom. You're a wealth of information on so many things. Thanks for being a guest.
You're very welcome. It's my pleasure.